got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ministry of Truth. I am your number one host on this show because Bat Mom says she loves me, and that's the only reason I come on. No, that's not true. Except the last part, anyway. So, got a couple things that we're going to go over today. Obviously, it's election time again, and we have Kamala Harris pretending to be black in Arizona. Fuck me. Atlanta. And then we have a J.D. Vance from Las Vegas yesterday. Fuck your feelings too, buddy. Just kidding. And then we're waiting for a Trump Q&A session with the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago. So we're going to play the other rallies up until this questioning starts. Should be interesting. I want to see how many times they call him racist or anything like that. Because, you know, racism fuels the world. If it wasn't there, we'd be a nicer, calmer community. Wait, that's not true. Anyway, let's get to Kamala Harris. Kamala, whatever you want to call her. That's not at all what I wanted to do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, this is your Democratic nominee who wasn't elected in the Democratic way. So let's not remember that. That doesn't happen. 1984.
Child sexual abuse case.
So, what do you want to talk about? Bill Gangbang. What up? I think she's dumber, to be honest. Oh, look at all these cuts.
Thank you, everyone.
Because you're black.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Oh, it's good to be back in Georgia.
Get rid of your stupid accent. Let's wait.
Thank you, everyone. Can we please hear it for Tyler? I want to thank Tyler for that incredible introduction. I invited him and several other young entrepreneurs to come and visit with me at the White House, and we had a really very long and important conversation.
Did you?
About the future of America. And Tyler, you represent the best of our future. Thank you for that.
Black business owners represent the future of America, guys.
And please give it up for Quavo.
No, that's the only reason some of the people showed up. Free concert. You too, feelings.
So good to see everyone. And let me also thank our incredible members of Congress who are with us this evening. Senator John Ossoff. Senator Raphael Warnock.
They better be. They're Georgia senators.
And Representative Nakima Williams.
Is Marjorie Taylor Greene there?
To Mayor Andre Dickens, thank you for welcoming me back.
What about
to
Fannie Willis?
Atlanta. And thank you to the great Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams is a loser.
Extraordinary leadership. So, Georgia, it is so good to be back, and I am very clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state.
No, it doesn't. You said that about Michigan and Milwaukee.
You all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
How'd you win the state?
So let's get right down. so I'm gonna get into some business now. Okay, I'm gonna get into some business now. All right. So Georgia, as many of you know, before and have a seat if you have a chair.
Or leave.
As many of you know, before I was elected vice president.
You weren't
and
elected
before I was
vice president.
a United States senator, I was an elected attorney general and an elected district attorney. And before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor.
Talk about your mouth. What'd it do?
So in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
You plagiarizing yourself or Obama? I mean, if you plagiarize, you fit perfectly with Joe Biden.
And I have been dealing with people like him my entire career. For example, as Attorney General of California, I took on one of our country's largest for-profit colleges that was scamming students. Well, Donald Trump ran a for-profit college that scammed
Yo, she's just
students.
regurgitating what she said last time.
As a prosecutor, I specialized in child sexual abuse cases and sexual
Oh,
abuse
yeah?
cases. Well, Trump was found liable for committing sexual abuse.
Against children?
And as an attorney general, I held the big Wall Street banks accountable for fraud. Donald Trump was just found guilty of fraud. 34 counts.
So she has no policy to run on, guys.
So
They
in
said this would happen.
campaign-
That's so 2016.
So in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his any day of
How about we bring up your record, not Joe Biden?
the week. Any day of the week.
That's why you can say that.
Including, for example, on the issue of immigration. So I was the Attorney General of a border state.
Uh-huh.
In that job, I walked underground tunnels between the United States and Mexico on that border with law enforcement officers.
So you
that
should
went
know.
After transnational gangs, drug cartels, and human traffickers that came into our country illegally. I prosecuted them in case after case, and I won. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border,
He actually did it.
but he does not walk the walk.
Have you
Or
been to
as
the border?
My friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
Look at that white guy in the back. You know he's getting paid. One of those white dudes for Kamala.
So look, our administration worked on the most significant border security bill in decades.
And it has done nothing.
Conservative Republicans in Washington, D.C. supported the bill. Even the Border Patrol endorsed it. It was all set to pass.
Except for there was earmarks.
But at the last minute, Trump directed his allies in the Senate to vote it down.
He's not the president. He can't direct anything.
He tanked.
You had 3.5 years.
The bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election.
You had 3.5 years.
Which goes to show.
And what you did is bring
Donald
back his
Trump does
policy
not
and
care
say
about
Joe
border
Biden signed the
security.
executive order.
He only cares about himself.
He cares about America. You only care about Trump. That's what it seems like. That's what they run on.
And when
Trump
I
did
am
this.
president, I will work to actually solve the problem.
You couldn't solve it as the borders are.
So here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the border security bill that Donald Trump killed, and I will sign
He
it
didn't
into
kill
law.
shit. He had nothing to do with it.
And show Donald Trump what real leadership looks like.
Where? In that room?
But make no mistake, this campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump.
I really hate how she uses both hands.
This campaign is about two very different visions for our nation.
Point up to your right and see what happens.
Focused on the future, the other focused on the past.
That's why you keep bringing up Donald Trump.
We believe in
Listen.
a future where
Donald Trump did this. If you listen to my thoughts, it sounds like you're warning about the past. You created the border situation only to say you fixed it. It's a fucking cycle. Always happens. Something gets passed, the other side unpasses it when they get in office. It's a continuous cycle. That's how they keep you voting. That's how they keep us dumb. They think we don't understand that's been happening. Because history repeats itself, and it's repeating it over and over and over again. And wait till we have another 1964.
every person has the opportunity to build a business, to own a home, to build intergenerational wealth.
This owning the home thing. Since Biden took office, my mortgages went up $150. My mortgage shouldn't be going up, period. I mean, my interest rate still, it's not great, but it's not in the 7s or 8s or 10s like they're doing now. So fuck refinancing. But, bro, and the more, they keep adding more fucking taxes. It's crazy.
A future with affordable health care, affordable child care, paid leave. And all of this is to say, building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
So where's it going to come from? The upper class?
Because we here all know
You're going to push the
when
upper class
our
down.
middle class is strong, America is strong.
Oh, so you're saying the middle class is weak, so America is weak.
And to keep our middle class strong, families need relief from the high cost of living.
So they're gonna
that
draft
they
your
have
sons
a
and daughters.
chance, not just to get by, but to get ahead.
Because we're about to go to war with Iran.
And yes, it is true that by many indicators, our economy is the strongest in the world.
False.
While
Argentina.
inflation is down and
Happy
wages
Meth Day,
are up,
short bus.
prices are still too high. You know it and I know it. And when we win this election, here's what we're going to do about it. On day one, I will take on price gouging and bring down costs.
I'd like to see how she does that.
And more of those hidden fees and surprise late charges that banks and other companies use to pad their profits.
That supposedly already happened.
increases.
Oh, there goes BlackRock. What's up, Yeti?
And we will take on Big Pharma to cap prescription drug costs for all Americans.
And that means buying cheapest bidder, right? Paying the most for it, though.
Our plan will lower costs and save many middle-class families thousands of dollars a year. But Donald Trump has a different plan in mind. One that would
Look into the
raise
past.
prices on middle-class families. Just look at his Project 2025 agenda.
Oh, here we fucking go.
I take it you've seen it.
No, they haven't.
Project 2025 is a plan to weaken the middle class. Be clear.
You know how I know they haven't seen
Donald
it? Because
Trump-
it's 900 fucking pages long. They all look like they have an attention span of about 12 seconds. So they're going to take what the news tells them and that's golden. It's golden. Man, that shit's a long fucking read.
Intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. He intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations. He intends to gut our investments in clean energy jobs.
We don't have those.
He intends to end the Affordable Care Act.
And you want Medicare for all, which costs more.
To take us back to a time when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. You guys remember what that was? Children with asthma, breast cancer survivors, grandparents with diabetes. Georgia, America has tried these failed policies before, and we are not going back.
Yo, she makes $8 million. Her net worth $8 million.
We're not going back.
Crazy for a politician and, district attorney and cop. A net worth of $8 million.
That's right. And we are not going back.
I have video of that
Ours
later. Hold on,
is a
Yeti.
fight
I was
for
going
the
to play this
future.
first.
And it is a fight for freedom. Across our nation, we are witnessing
Yeti knows what I'm gonna play already.
on hard-fought, hard-won freedoms and rights. The freedom to vote. The freedom to be safe from gun violence.
The freedom to vote for who? God,
The
look at the
freedom
lady
to
on the
live
left.
without fear of
Next to the
bigotry
Kamala
and
sign.
hate. The freedom to love who you love openly and with pride.
Look, the old lady's like, fuck that.
The freedom to learn and acknowledge our true and full history.
What up, Matt? Ooh, wait.
And the freedom
The freedom to know our full history? Let me get in on that. Let me get on that full history. I'm all for it. But I guarantee you it's not the history that she wants to hear.
of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
No, Matt, that's not one of the things I was really
Ours is a fight for
worried
the
about talking
future
about.
and for freedom. And I don't have to tell folks in Atlanta that generations of Americans before us led the fight for freedom. And now the baton is in our hands. Each and every one of us. And we love our country.
What up, Carl,
We
brother?
love our
How you been?
country. And I believe it is the highest form of patriotism to fight for the ideals of our country.
What is your definition of patriotism? Because your dad's a
And
socialist.
so, we who believe in the sacred freedom to vote will finally pass the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act.
Who in America cannot vote? That's a legal American.
We who believe in the freedom to live safe from gun violence will finally pass universal background checks.
All right,
red
listen.
flag laws,
Red flag laws are unconstitutional. The background checks There is a universal background check. I have not purchased a rifle or pistol without having a background check done through the ATF. Okay. That's a federal government, and they run a background check. Georgia, they run it through GBI. Georgia. Tennessee, they run it through TBI. So I've got federal and state that review my purchase. And I normally get approved to purchase within 35 to 45 seconds if they're using the computer, and maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes if they're calling in. And I have nothing to hide. My record is obviously clean. So why can't I? I fought for the right. There is a background check. Don't let them fucking lie to you. Unless you're purchasing it from the, from the streets, like all these criminals, or you're doing a straw purchase.
And an assault weapons ban.
Listen, I know I say this a lot. Assault weapons are banned in the United States unless you have a Class 3 FFL, or a tag stamp where you can get a silencer, but Class 3 is automatic weapons, which makes it an assault weapon. It's not like I can go buy a 240 randomly.
We who believe in reproductive freedom will stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion bans, and when Congress passes a law to restore...
Donald Trump is not going to put a national ban on abortion. What Donald Trump is going to do, and we all know this, is he's going to leave it up to the state governments, which, that's what they were supposed to do. It's their law. Their state. Let them govern themselves. We don't micromanage. And, well, obviously we know they micromanage. But the federal government should have nothing to do with what state says. Because the states are the people that vote for what they want, not what the federal government's like, hey, we like it's like this, which is democracy. And you don't actually vote for what you want. They vote for you, for what they want.
Reproductive freedoms. As President of the United States, I will sign it into law.
Look at the lady behind the teleprompter.
So November 5th is in 98 days.
Oh, sweet. 97.
In 98 days, and let's level set. Friends, let's level set.
All right.
We have a fight in front of us.
Define the fight.
We have a fight in front of us. And we are the underdogs in this race. We are.
Wait.
But you see, this is a people-powered campaign.
Oh, fuck me.
Ours is a
It's people power, ladies and gentlemen.
In fact, after I announced my candidacy, we saw the best week of grassroots fundraising in presidential campaign history.
It's totally illegal what they're doing because there's no possible way they're raising that much money with small money donors.
You can help us build on that success.
Because I've been getting multiple emails every day begging for money.
So the momentum in this race is shifting. And there are signs that Donald Trump is feeling it.
I don't think there are.
You may have noticed.
It's because he got shot.
So last week, you may have seen, he pulled out of the debate in September he had previously agreed to.
Oh, here we go. Yes, he did. Because why? Because he agreed to do the debate with Joe Biden. And why would he want to do it with not having a home field advantage? So all the Democrats get to have a home field advantage, but they are renegotiating. So keep that smile on your face because it's going to happen. If you don't get replaced by the DNC. Just saying. Bro, we watched that Senate thing yesterday. It was fucking amazing towards the end.
Here's the funny thing about that. So he won't debate. he and his running mate sure seem to have a lot to say about me.
Well, they're running against you.
And by the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
Weird. That's not her generation term.
Well, Donald,
Wait, you can call them weird, but they can't call you ding dong? Senator Kennedy.
I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage.
The DNC does not want that.
Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say,
Look, he doesn't even believe it.
say it to my face.
Look, he's feeling so happy because they're cheering. Finally, you feel important. Too bad you've been living a lie. Fight, fight, fight. Fight, fight, fight. Oh, is that the wrong campaign?
Thank you. So, Georgia, in the next 98 days, we
Get the
have
hell
our
out of
work
my
cut
state.
out for us. And this is not going to be easy. This is hard work, but we like hard work. Hard work is good work.
That's not what Judge Brown said, which I'll play
So, Georgia,
tomorrow.
today I ask you, are you ready to get to work? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America?
Start cheering USA.
And are we ready to fight for it?
Fight! 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 Say it with me, guys. Fight! Fight! Fight!
God bless you. God bless the United States.
Freedom! That stupid Beyonce song. Oh. Yep, she definitely is. That's why she was on RuPaul. Close that. Where'd it go? Sorry, I didn't put it in the right window. So this is Savannah Hernandez with Turning Point. She was showing you, and she started recording late, but 30-minute speech, and this is what she saw. This is 30 minutes. This is early in the speech. So yeah, they were just there for the Quavo and Megan Thee Stallion concert. Pretty much. I don't really feel like doing the JD Vance one. Still waiting for the Donald one, but you know what I will do, ladies and gentlemen? I got something I'll show y'all. Because she said she's not lazy, and I found a video that begs to differ. Sorry, this is live, and I like to change shit up on the go. Oh, we need to talk about the Hamas thing too. So like I said, we might be going to war with Iran. Because they got one of Hamas and Hezbollah people were assassinated. Sonia Massey. Come on, where the fuck is it? See, I watch a lot of shit. There it is. Y'all ready for this? This isn't Willie Brown, but it's Judge Brown, and you know. Whoa.
But I gotta ask you
Yeah, but
about
what they don't realize, there's a lot of videos out there right now where the black people aren't buying it, so they're fucking themselves over.
Kamala Harris. How you feel about her?
She's a piece of shit. I was in California. She lacked professional competence, and she worked on it by hiking up her hemline when she needed influence rather than researching. I was out in California for 15 years doing my show when she was at her peak, and she had a reputation amongst the trial lawyers of being lazy.
You
She
gotta
just
know the
hiked
art of dialogue. These are also the same people that did the original Bodyguard interviews for Diddy.
her skirt up and tried to flirt, and she wasn't that good in the courtroom, if not pretty bad in the courtroom. So I'm not surprised at what she does. She's 60 years old, and I think listening to her word salad and the way she talks, I think she's got early onset dementia and also some problems with menopausal complications. That's that. You see, today is going to be tomorrow. So since it's going to be tomorrow, today we have tomorrow, which is why we are now. Like, what did you say? They have something in mind, but they cannot cognate getting all the way through it, which is why she's famous for this word salad garbage, and she doesn't make a bit of sense. I think since she's only 60, she's actually on a worse track than Biden was. Biden is 20 some years older than her, and he has been senile for a long time. Now, about 5 or 6 years ago, when did they
Right,
start
Mark?
ramping up to do this?
Good to see you, man.
2019. Okay, I was saying Biden has been a failure his whole adult career, a second-rate, third-string player. He's in the game, so he wants to make a name for himself. I considered him for years poor trailer park, urban trailer park trash, and he's a crook. He's a third stringer. Now, what I said he was going to do is he probably wants to claim fame for being the first person to see to it that a woman got to be president. And what I predicted, I'm slightly wrong on it, was that he was going to get in, try to get elected, and if he got one term, try to get elected for a second one. And then halfway through his term, when he had served 2 years, to retire or resign in her favor. So under the 22nd Amendment, what happens is she can serve for the final 2 years for somebody and then be elected twice more. So that woman would be able to serve 10 years, second only to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who got elected to 4 terms before they put the amendment in place so you couldn't.
That's shot now.
That said, I think, and my major at UCLA was political science. My analysis is they picked the weakest somebody they could as a figurehead, somebody who had some apparent minority status, which she does not. And what goes on is that you get her, everybody that is everybody would be afraid to go against her because of what she can pass herself off as. And then you get somebody that's easy to control because she's lazy, because she is becoming incoherent, and because she's always tried to do the casting couch to get where she wants.
Oh,
now,
shit.
the problem is that'll get somebody
Right.
to a certain level.
Just so we're clear, does anybody not know what that comment meant by casting couch? Don't feel bad.
Well, quickly. But you can't get past that level if you don't have competence and talent. So my thing about it is if I'm crude about it, in this city years ago, I used to represent a whole bunch of pimps and hoes, and I know a hoe when I see one. And I say this, I don't care, women, you do what you want to do if you want to have recreational sex, but when you do the casting couch or anything else for professional purposes to get paid or advance, you a hoe. and she's old. And the problem is what is she supposed to do? Somebody, one of her sycophant slaves, comes up and unwraps her in a carpet naked at Putin's feet, and he says, "Oh, yeah, I'm Julius Caesar." He said, "No, I got better stuff here already. Plus, I don't want you anyway, you old woman. Get on up." You know, or Xi Jinping, is he supposed to be impressed? She's doing word salad. Well, we're here today because China and the U.S. are here today, and that's why we have to agree on what we're doing here today. Like, fool, what did you just say? Did you say anything? And I've never seen such a salacious mess as I've seen out of her. I think of One West Bank. I had some pretty good properties out in California at one point in time.
Bro, he's so old it looks like his teeth got tanned.
And I know I had 3 neighbors who had good properties. It was in a place called Ojai, California.
Shit, denim.
And they got caught up about 15, 16 years ago, like a lot of people did, in that mortgage bundling scam stuff that was going on. And there was a bank called One West Bank responsible for it, which was owned by George Soros.
Oh.
The Mnuchin that you have out of the Obama administration was Mnuchin, who was the CEO of One West Bank. Well, there were approximately 1,200 counts of indictments returned against Mnuchin and One West Bank in various counties in California. Well, Mnuchin and Soros financed and arranged and sponsored Kamala to run for Attorney General of California. They got her elected. She got in, and using the authority she had, she promptly consolidated all 5,200 counts and dismissed them. And a couple of weeks later, Soros sold One West Bank for $4.2 billion.
Oh, shit.
So after that, they got together and got her finance and got everything organized and made the connections for her, and she got elected to U.S. Senator. Willie Brown made the initial contacts and arrangements so she could get elected as district attorney for San Francisco. She didn't do a very good job. She had a reputation for giving out the stiffest sentences in the United States of America for simple possession of marijuana in San Francisco, for God's sakes. But it was only to young black men. She's not a parent, never had any children, but she went off on this campaign to lock parents up, some of whom actually were shown to have dropped their children off at the school, but they played hooky, so she was putting them in jail. I know my in-laws, now late in-laws, because they're dead, and their fine daughter that I was married to, we were divorced. She got a whole lot of money, but anyway, out of me. What wound up happening was there was a liquor store there.
Wait a second. Q is still around? All right.
Like to patronize on the way home. And it was a good liquor store, but it got held up a lot. So Kamala's solution was not go get the crooks, but close down the liquor store so nobody would be troubled by it. See, that kind of philosophy, or you've got a serial killer who's got 6 victims, and the families are writing protest letters to her, not hurry up and do
Q is about 50-50 sometimes. The only thing that I think that Q was 100% about was the pedophile community and how high it goes.
So not why you giving the guy such a light deal, is why don't you let this man plead guilty to life without parole instead of delaying it for 7 years, trying to make political hay out of it. I was caught up in a thing where this woman who was supposed to be a financial specialist wound up embezzling a lot, $1.5 million from me, about $15 million from some other black celebrities. And most of it was in the San Francisco area, not LA where I was. She consolidated the cases up there in San Francisco, took 5 years to resolve it, let her plead out not the $15 million of embezzlement, but $35,000. The sentence was 5 years in the penitentiary, 4.5 years suspended, 5 years probation. The woman wound up sitting on a bench outside Sybil Branch, which is the women's detention facility in L.A. County, for 5.5 hours. That's all the time she served, made no restitution. And la-di-da, I'm through with it now. I don't care on her behalf. Like, where's our money?
Sorry about that, guys.
George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton have attended the NABJ conventions either as presidents or as presidential candidates in past years. NABJ is currently in conversation with Vice President
We'll go back
Kamala
to that after
Harris's
this.
team to schedule a Q&A either in person or virtually in September. As journalists, we use opportunities like these both to inform our reporting, but also to help voters understand the choices that they face in a consequential and historic election year. NABJ has partnered with PolitiFact to fact-check this conversation in real time. You can access that feed on social media using the hashtag NABJFactCheck. Again, the hashtag is NABJFactCheck. We have a lot to get to, and we do not want to waste any time, so let's bring out the former President of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump.
Look at that. Look at that man. What up, guys?
Thank you.
Oh.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe
What's up, Sam?
district attorneys.
How you doing?
You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible.
Damn.
And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further.
That's the old Trump.
I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out
they
my
won't.
opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming.
Oh, shit.
And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working, or something
Mr.
was
President,
wrong.
I would love
think
if you
it's
can
a
answer
very
the
Holy
question
shit.
on rhetoric and why you
I have
believe that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off
Who gave
with
welfare
question
out?
and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president
not
and be on
black.
a major party ticket as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir,
of
I'm
that.
asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So, I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly, very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you
And
believe
I
that
think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really
have
don't
said?
know. I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that
Well,
interview.
you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country.
Oh, she's from Fox
And
News.
as you were coming today, we really got to see that we were divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking...
He sure as hell did.
A lot of problems with it, but one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are Black. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking Black jobs. You had the best...
What exactly is a Black job, sir?
A Black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is, anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
Mr.
they're taking the employment away from Black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people.
20
I
million.
have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the Black population, is affected most by that. And Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So she was a border czar. She's done a horrible job. These people are coming into our country, and they're taking Black jobs and Hispanic jobs, and frankly, they're taking union jobs. Unions are being very badly affected by all of the millions of people that are pouring into our country. And one thing, as we discussed, many of these people are coming in from mental institutions, from prisons, from jails. They're gang members in other countries. Other countries are setting loose their prisoners. They're opening up their prisons and their mental institutions, and they're taking their bad people, drug dealers, gang members, and they're bringing them into the United States. And by the way, their crime rate is going down, and our crime rate is going to be a disaster.
Mr. President, I want to get into how you address some of the issues with Black communities. And I say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
True.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts, and this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now.
What's up, Vlad?
The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a 52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single Black moms, when you look statistically. How do you turn it around? What's your plan for the black community when it comes to money?
So, first of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, this woman was unable to get the right equipment. But it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other word. It's very difficult, actually. But so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it.
Oh, shit, it went up?
Inflation is absolutely destroying our middle class, our working class, virtually every class. Inflation is a disaster in our country. Inflation is a country buster. It breaks every country. And we had, in my opinion, the worst inflation we've had. They say it's 58 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's been devastating. And if you just take a look at a lot of things they don't include, like interest rates. Interest rates went from 2.4% to 10%, and you can't get the money. People can't buy houses. They no longer have the American dream. Young people, young black people, they don't have the American dream anymore. They can't buy a house. They can't borrow the money because of the cost of the money. They can't buy because of the cost of housing, because of the cost to build it, because of inflation. Inflation is a disaster, and it's destroying our country, and it's destroying the black community probably as much or more.
So what do you do?
Than any
What's your plan?
You know what we have to do? We have to bring down the cost of energy, and that's going to bring down the cost of inflation. This was all started with a bad energy policy by Joe Biden. By the way, just if I might, I was running against a man named Biden. You probably saw that.
God damn it. He's doing the hand
And
thing.
he was losing very badly in the polls, and then he had a rather bad debate. I would say it was a bad debate. I would say it was one of the worst debates in history. And his poll numbers crashed. And instead of saying, let's keep going, and maybe something happens the other way, they said, oh, we're going to replace him. Let's just replace him. That's like you're in a fight, a prize fighter's in a fight. He's not doing well. You say, let's bring in another fighter. So our whole campaign was steered toward him, and now we have to steer toward him. But ultimately, it's the same because they have bad policy. They have policies of open borders, unbelievable open borders, horrible
Damn it.
energy policies.
Short bus.
They want to get
Tennessee's
rid of,
going to disown
as
you.
you say, gasoline in cars. They want to get rid of oil. They want to get rid of efficient heating.
Mr. President.
Environmentally, what they're doing is killing our country. They're absolutely destroying our country. But the inflation is the thing that's hurting the black worker, the black population, and every other population within our country. Inflation is the worst it's been.
Oh, no,
think,
I know,
over
short bus.
100 years. And they'll fact check it. They'll say it's only 58. Whatever it may be, they don't add all the numbers. They don't add the really bad numbers, and you can check that too. But inflation, Harris, is absolutely destroying this country and the people in our country. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
President, can I ask you another question
Yes,
that is
and-
also impacting black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an
Well, here we
unarmed
go.
black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't
Yeah,
look
it's
good to
live.
me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But
And
again, why would?
they're going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th
you're right.
weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now,
distinctions?
for the most part, people
be
are
Department of
protected
Justice.
by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
You
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous, and you know they have
Absolutely
a
not.
person's life and woman is a very difficult thing, because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So I want to follow up really quickly. I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that skepticism apply to law enforcement?
Well, I've been prosecuted because I'm a political opponent of two people that have weaponized our justice system. I've been prosecuted. I just won the big case in Florida. Everyone said that was the biggest case. That was the most difficult case. And I just won it. Now, Biden has a similar case, except much worse. I was protected under the Presidential Records Act. Biden wasn't, because he wasn't president at the time. And he had 50 years worth of documents. And they ruled that he was incompetent, and therefore he shouldn't stand trial. And I said, isn't that something? He's incompetent and he can't stand trial, and
But he
yet
should be running the country.
he can be president. Isn't that nice?
Mr. President,
But
I want
they
to keep
released him on the basis that he was incompetent. They said he had no memory, and he was a nice old guy, but he had no memory, and therefore we're not going to prosecute him. I won the case, and it got very little publicity. I didn't notice ABC doing any publicity on it, George.
We cover you extensively, sir. I'd
Slopadopoulos.
love to move over to different
I didn't
topics
notice you
now.
do any publicity on it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This is an attack on a political opponent. I have another one where
Sir,
I
if
have
you
a
don't mind, I'd
hostile
love
judge.
to. We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different
No,
topics.
excuse
if
you.
we
You're the
can.
one that held me up for 35 minutes, just so you understand.
Yes.
If we can move on now to the state of the race, sir, I want to get back to the campaign. Senator J.D. Vance is your running mate. He's had a lot of controversy lately, and I want to read you a few things that he has said in the past. He said the Democrats running the country are a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
I mean, it's true.
He's not talking here about how great it is to be a parent. He's attacking what he says are the choices people are making to not have children.
No,
Did
Vlad.
you know that he
Absolutely
had
not.
views about people who do not have children before you picked him to be your running mate, and do you agree with him?
No, I know this. He is very family-oriented, and he thinks family is a great thing. That doesn't mean he thinks that if you don't have a family, it's not. I know people with families. I know people with great families. I know people with very troubled families. And I also know people with no families. They didn't meet the right person. Things happen. You go through life, you don't meet the right person.
But he's not just talking
Excuse
about
me.
families here.
And
He also
some of
says that
those
people that don't have children
could have
get
said
less
blue-haired.
votes than those that do.
I'm just speaking for myself.
that your
and I
campaign
think I'm
position?
speaking for him too. He strongly believes in family, but I know people with great families. I know people with not great families that don't have a family. And the people without the family are far better. They're superior in many cases, okay?
It's not
He's
going to happen.
saying they're not. What he's saying is that he thinks the family experience is a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But that doesn't mean that if you grow up and you grow older and you don't meet somebody.
Remember,
that
Vlad, I
would
got to be
wonderful
careful.
To meet and would have been good,
I'm on a terror watch
that's
list.
a bad thing. He's not saying that. My interpretation, you'll have to ask him, actually, but my interpretation is he's strongly family-oriented. But that doesn't mean if you don't have a family, there's something wrong with it.
Just
Mr.
one last
President?
point, and then we'll move on. Just one of the bedrock principles
You know, that'll never
of
happen.
American life is one person, one vote. Senator J.D. Vance has suggested that someone who has children should have more votes than a person who does not have children. I just
What?
want to be clear here. Is that the position of your campaign?
Well, no, but it's not something I have ever heard before. I can tell you this. Right now, you have
I need to find
illegal
out if he
aliens
said
coming
that.
into our country, many from prisons and many from mental institutions, and they want to give them votes. I don't think they should have votes. They came into our country illegally,
People
and
who
they're
are only
taking the
American
vote away
citizens
from
are
all
allowed
of the
to vote,
people in
sir.
this room that have been here a long time, that have worked hard, that in many cases, and you'll see this happening, if I'm not elected, you're going to see it happen. If I am, you're not going to have any problem. But you're going to see it happening a long time. You're going to see the people in this room and people outside of this room are going to be losing their jobs to people that have come into this country illegally.
Mr. President, can we stay with just kind of the state of the race right now? Because I felt like that vice president question, candidate question,
I know,
was
Yeti.
right in there with that.
It's hurting them.
So let's talk about J.D. Vance for a little bit. He's had some stumbles out of the gate. I don't know if you're hearing what we hear as reporters, but it's been a tough couple of weeks for him. Why did you choose J.D. Vance?
Why
did you choose him?
You still got time to drop him, though.
I chose him
Everybody out
because-
there can, but it's
I'll
hard
tell
up
you
here.
why. I chose him because he's a very strong believer in work and the working man and woman, and especially the working man and woman who have been treated very unfairly, because you have many of them in this room. But you have many of those people, they were treated very unfairly. They worked very hard and they were treated unfairly. He wrote the book that became a bestseller. The movie became a smash hit. He's a very smart guy without the benefit of having a family that has contacts, like a father that was well connected. He got into Yale Law School. He graduated in 2 years from Ohio State, summa cum laude. I mean, you take a look at, his career has been an amazing career. He started off at a level with
That, Vlad, 100%
difficult
facts.
family situation, very difficult with the mother and the father and everything else. He ends up going to Yale Law School and was one of the top students, became the head of the Law Journal. I mean, that's an amazing thing. He's a 4-year, he was in the military with great distinction for 4 years, got out, went into business, became successful in business, very successful in business, actually. Did public offerings and other things. And I have to believe in that. I mean, he's somebody that was born in a rough situation. Most of the people know that situation because it was very well documented in his book. And I have a lot of respect for somebody that can get into Yale and become one of the best students in Yale, that meets a young woman at Yale who was also outstanding, and they get married, they have a beautiful family. But he had he's made himself an amazing life. He then goes to Ohio, lives in Ohio, and he had my endorsement. That helped. But he wins the Senate. He becomes a United States Senator. So he's a United States Senator. So Harris, like I respect you for your success, I respect people for their success.
The reason I asked the question is because the last time you and I sat and talked was the day that you were shot. We'd been together for much of that day. You left to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And 2 days
sorry.
after that...
I cannot understand. Your microphone
I know,
is so
it is really hard for me to understand
it's just,
you too.
I can understand you perfectly.
Because she's closer.
I can understand you.
Happy to hear that, sir.
But I can't
Really happy to hear
understand,
that.
Harris,
I have a few more questions.
because of the distance, and the mics are really in lousy shape, but I cannot understand
Are you asking a question?
what you're saying.
So what I wanted to say was the last time we spoke, you said some words that were prophetic because I asked you who you wanted to choose for vice president.
Yeah.
And you said normally it really wouldn't matter what they would bring, you choose somebody that you think has a future, that sort of thing. But you said these words 3.5 hours before an attempted assassination on your life. You told me that bad things happen, Harris. And that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen. You said it twice. When you look at J.D. Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready on day one, if he has to be.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this.
Yo, he's been going
well
after it the whole time.
Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact. You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson mattered for different reasons than what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think J.D. is. I think that all of them would have been. But you're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for if you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
I'm going to get my J.D. Vance question in.
I'm kind of partial to Vance because he's a vet.
To your point and
But-
to Rachel's point, he has a lot of opinions about
I don't know.
childless women like myself or
I'm still
divorced
50-50. I
people
don't
like
trust him.
yourself. Do you think, well, I mean, my
But
point
at
is
least
here.
it was said in a friendly manner.
My point is, do you think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what J.D. Vance is saying?
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month. They're allowing the
But
death.
I think it's
they're
about
allowing
freedom,
the death
right?
of a baby after the baby is born, based on
Sir,
the
that
governor
is
of
illegal
Virginia.
in every state in the
That's
country.
Based on the governor of Virginia,
Executing a
they're
baby in
allowing the
every
death
state
of the
in the country
baby
is illegal.
after it's born.
It's
They're
a
allowing
crime.
abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well,
of
Democrats
pregnancy.
have denied
I think they're right. And I
That's
think
the thing.
the Republican Party is actually much less. I think I've made them much less radical, perhaps, but the Republican Party, what we're doing is bringing it back to the states where everybody wanted it.
There you go.
Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservative, everybody wanted abortion brought back. They didn't want Roe v. Wade in the federal government. They wanted it, everybody
But the
wanted
majority
it
of
back.
Americans oppose
Excuse
Roe
me.
v. Wade being
They
overturned.
don't
Multiple
know
polls have
about
showed
this.
that, sir.
Right now, they're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed.
I think that's it.
With rape.
That's why I didn't
incest,
like him.
Life of the mother. I do. I think
that
most
I
people
don't
do. I
want.
think most Republicans do also.
Thanks,
But when you
Yeti.
take a look. Right now, they're doing. It's an amazing thing. Out of the federal government, it's in states, and people are voting. And I will say, Ohio is, let's call it a more liberal version, has been approved. Kansas, the same thing, a little bit surprising.
Oh, you're good in here, Vlad.
But the people are now voting, and it's taking this issue that's been going on for 52 years and has torn our country apart, and it's giving it to the people to vote on, and they're voting. And many states have already voted. Others are in the process of voting, and it's bringing it back to the people and a vote of the people. And it's not at all radical. And again, you have to follow your heart. I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Most people believe in the 3 exceptions. Most Republicans believe in the exceptions. But they don't want to see an abortion in the 9th month or the 8th month. Almost everybody agrees to that. And they certainly don't want to see, in the case of the governor of Virginia, the former governor, I might add, who said, we set the baby aside and then we decide what to do. Meaning, what do? We execute the baby. That's a radical, horrible position. And some people want that. I don't want it. Most people don't.
Thank you. Can I just pivot really quickly to another question about, you brought up health, Harris. You're an active man. We see you golfing all the time. But if you win, you'll still be president at 82, which is older than Biden is right now.
But not mentally. Look, mentally.
Here's the question.
He's shot. But most people.
Would you consider?
Most people. I know many people in their 80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders. You look at throughout the world history, the greatest leaders, some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s.
But here's the question. Would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would make,
I think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know. Look, if I came onto a stage like this and I got treated so rudely as this woman treated
Oh my
me,
goodness.
and I'm fine with it because she was very rude, sir. Very rude. That was a nasty, that wasn't a question. She
Sir,
didn't ask
you
me
can
a
answer the
question.
question.
She gave a statement. That wasn't a question.
I repeated
You can
your
answer the
statement, sir,
question.
actually.
You said you would. You would
Oh,
make that
absolutely.
decision
If
to
I
step
thought
down.
that I was failing in some way, I want people to be sharp. I'll go a step further. I want anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
I took 2 of them and I aced them.
Well, can I
got 'em.
just-
I took 2 of them. But let me ask you.
Yeah.
I would like to have people running for president, and I don't mean
They have to take one every year.
Or
If I had my
85.
way.
I think anybody running, I'd like to do it. People say it's not constitutional. I would like to have something passed where you can do it. I think we should know. I mean, I've watched what's happened in the last couple of years under this gentleman, and our country is a mess. We have inflation. We have the millions of people falling in. We have Afghanistan, which was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. What he has done to our country, and her too, what they've done to our country. She has been a horrible vice president. She's considered the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President,
I would love to
and
do
make
it
it public.
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
Mr. President, how do you intend?
You said it.
I suggested, Harris, that let's take one. I said, Joe and I will go and take a cognitive test. Now, I'd do it with her, too. I would do it with her also. You know what? She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exam, so maybe she wouldn't pass the cognitive test.
Mr.
Damn.
Are you saying she wouldn't pass? Just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
to be clear, you don't think
I'm
Harris
just
How do you
giving the
intend,
facts. She
and
didn't
look,
pass her bar exam, and she didn't think she would pass it, and she didn't think she was going to ever pass it. And I don't know what happened. Maybe she passed it.
She did pass it.
There's a
She
man
did-
over
she
here.
did
I
in
think
fact
he
pass
must
it.
work for
Mr.
her.
President, I would love to ask you about January 6th. You've called yourself the candidate of law and order. When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely.
Sure.
You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to
That's
modern
not what he
day.
said.
About 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol, a horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint that will never actually come off, especially in the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff. It'll never, you'll see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed
But sir, my
that
question
city?
is on those.
What's going to happen to
my
the people
question is
that
on
tried
those
to burn
rioters
down-
who assaulted
Excuse me.
officers.
You have to
Would
answer.
you pardon
What's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You
If
would
they're
pardon
innocent,
those-
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just well, they were convicted by a very tough system. They were. How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis? How come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle? How come nothing happened to them? How come the
But
people
sir, we're
that,
talking
how
about people
come
that
the
were
people-
seen
no,
beating
We're
officers
talking
with
about
flag
federal
poles,
buildings.
dragging them down the stairs. They're on
They
video.
try-
Have you seen that
Really?
video,
Oh,
sir?
really?
What
Well,
video?
You would pardon those? You would pardon those rioters?
They shot a young lady in the face who was protesting. They shot her in the face. You know, nobody died that day. You do know that. But people died in Seattle. Nobody died, but people died in
140
Minneapolis.
officers
Do you know
were
people died in
assaulted that
Minneapolis?
day.
And
Yo.
nothing happens, and nobody ever talks, and nothing happens to those
He just
people.
said nobody
You
died
went
that
after
day.
the J6 people with a vengeance. And I'll tell you what about the cops that were...
That's
and I'm all
a
for the
conspiracy.
police, as you know, but what about the police that are ushering everybody into the Capitol? Go in, go in, go in. What about that? Look,
No one was
nothing
ushering
is
into the Capitol.
nothing is perfect in life, but you have people from Minneapolis. You have people just from 5 days ago in Washington, D.C. They were having fistfights and fighting with the police. They were spraying and destroying. They were desecrating our monuments in Washington, D.C. 5 days ago, and nothing happened to them. And you can't have 2 systems of justice. That's why they went after me as a political opponent, because they felt they couldn't win without doing that. And we're going to win our cases, and we're going to be vindicated. But I have to spend a lot of time on that and money. That's what they want. After the election, they won't care. Although in my case, I think they probably will, because the hatred is pretty deep. But I'll tell you, they went after me as a political opponent. That's never happened in our country before, and it sets a terrible, terrible precedent.
what do you do on day one if you win? What's your first thing?
What do? I close the border. And I do 2 things, because I can do a lot of things simultaneously. I close the border. We don't want people coming in. We want people to come in, Harris, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. They have to come in legally. We want people. I want people to come into our country, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. So when you say, what do? That, and I drill, baby, drill. I bring energy way down. I bring interest rates down. I bring inflation way down, so people can buy bacon again, so people can buy a ham sandwich again, so that people can go to a restaurant and afford it. Because right now, people can't buy food. Your grocery bills are up 40, 50, 60%.
He's right.
Right? She's agreeing to me. Oh, she's agreeing. Thank you. I like you very much.
Mr. President, I think we are.
But it's true. Your grocery bills are up. And then they're mandating that you buy an all-electric car. You know, Elon Musk endorsed me, and he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. But I'm against everybody having an electric car, okay? I'm very much against that. You have to be able to, if you want a hybrid or if you want a gasoline-propelled car. But, you know, we have more liquid gold, gasoline, oil, under our feet than any other country. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than any other country. I want to use it. I want to use what we have. I want to bring down prices, bring down costs, and I also have to stop the invasion. And remember, they're taking your jobs. These people coming in are taking your jobs.
Project 2025.
I think we have to leave it there by the Trump team.
All right.
So leave it. That is the last word. Thank you so much, Mr. Trump, for coming today and joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
They've been telling us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, very much. Great
Thank
honor.
you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
NEBJ will email about details regarding the conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris in September. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
That was fun. Where the hell is it? He came out swinging. Well, at the same time, so did the lady. Oh, I think he wanted to. I wonder why they wanted to stop. Because he was getting to the point now. Instead of all that extra bullshit about being a convicted felon. Oh my God, Dominique. You know what? Yeah, they wanted him to stop. Don't know why. Probably because the right questions were coming out. He was supposed to address Project 2025, but we ran out of time because he would fucking destroy Project 2025. That's why they stopped it right there. Trump team has said stop it right there. That's fucking crazy. And Dominique, no. I tried to restart it, but that button's broke. So we're just you're gonna have to rewind and pick up where we left off. But we are picking up where we left off, like I said. So let's finish that little Kamala Harris interview. Whoa. The Kamala Harris ho expose and what really happened to get her where she is. And just like Trump said, she only started pretend being black recently. Well, by recent, I mean like 8 to 10 years when it was beneficial for her.
You know, what did you do here? You didn't even consult with us. You did this on a surprise basis. There's $15 million gone. What happened? It's the kind of thing she would do, see. So it's like,
oh my
that
God.
was not a good professional performance.
Dominic?
And then she was everybody's favorite Hindu Indian prosecutor and attorney general and senator, and now she becomes black. But, you know, I met her daddy, fine gentleman, Professor Harris. And the problem with her being black is Professor Harris says he's Caucasian, mixed Irish and Hindu. He doesn't have any black ancestors, but his Irish ancestors owned a lot of slaves in Jamaica and had them to work on plantation. So if mama is on the birth certificate listed as a Caucasian, daddy says he's a Caucasian Hindu and has no black ancestors, how did she get to be black? Now, a little side story. When I had my show, let's say this has been 26 years ago, I had two beautiful women that I thought were sisters on the show. And they laughed one time when we all went to a happy hour and said, "You think we're black, don't you?" "Yeah, aren't you?" "No, we're Hindu." One of them said, My mother's a Hindu Brahmin caste. My father was Hindu warrior caste. He took an oath to the family to protect her. They fell in love, eloped, and now we got a death warrant on us. We can't go back to India. So, yeah. And then they gave me 2 books. The guys were Hindu, and they were very dark, but they cut their hair off close, grew beards, and started dressing and acting black, and they got financial aid. One of them, I think, went through medical school that way, masquerading for being black. Somebody else did it, so she went to Howard. And by the way, she told one big lie when she was talking about she got bust because of something Biden did when she was running against him. Well, the yearbook that she put out there that you can still get online from her high school in Canada shows she went from kindergarten through 12th grade in Canada.
In the United States. I fucking forgot about that. Because I think I talked about it last year or the year before that. But I totally forgot about it.
Never went to school in the United States of America. She was born, by the way, in the same hospital that my ex-wife was born in, the same 12-month period. And my late mother-in-law was, in fact, a pediatric nurse in that hospital when Kamala was born. And the birth certificate that she has is interesting because the confusion comes from a mistake. On the birth certificate, it lists the mother's race as Caucasian, national origin India, and religion Hindu. For the father, it does not list national origin. It does not list religion. It does not list anything about that, but where it says race, they put national origin in Jamaica by mistake. Now, if you've ever been to Jamaica and you get over to St. Elizabeth Parish, you see all the high, bright, and white that live in Jamaica. So I've got a good friend retired from law enforcement. He has a white wife, blonde-haired, blue eyes, but she was born in Jamaica. Her parents were born in Jamaica. One's blonde and blue-eyed, the other one's red-haired and gray-eyed. And they happen to be related to the King of England because they are aristocrats in England, but they were born in Jamaica. So if you go over there, you see people from Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, Kenya, South Africa, you name it. It's part of the British Commonwealth, and nobody needed a passport.
She could say she's Jamaican. If both parents were Indian and they looked black, and her family was slave owners at one point in Jamaica, and he's saying that it's like a melting pot there, that fucking makes sense. I'd use it too. Got me more college money.
Or you could just go in and out. So it's not unusual. You're not black just because you're from Jamaica, and you have a whole lot of white people that never left, and their ancestors owned a lot of slaves. The Maroons went up into the hill country and got themselves free back in the 1840s, but, you know, other than that, it is what it is in Jamaica. So just because you're from that country does not mean you are of the black race. So the problem is why don't you go get your daddy to give you an affidavit that you have a black ancestor? And since the only possible claim you have is through your great-grandmother, who he says was a Hindu house servant that just happens to be swarthy, where'd you get your blackness from? See, you're faking it again. And I say this after 50 years of experience. The worst human beings you will ever find are career prosecutors. Something slimy about them. They are so turned off by humanity and everything else. They don't care. They're trying to win the game. It is just play to them. They don't give a damn about the people they represent. They just want to win. So they lie, cheat, steal to win the game. And that brings up the other thing, where the Supreme Court of California ordered her to produce the evidence that was exculpating to somebody sitting up on death row that she had hidden. They did that over and over and over again with her hiding this evidence. Now, there are exceptions to this rule with career prosecutors, but if you ever want to sleazy somebody, find yourself a career prosecutor who's never done anything else but that until they have moved up. Now, there have been people like Thomas Dewey, who was a career prosecutor. He got Lucky Luciano, the gangster that set up the mob as a syndicate, a business. He got him and became governor of New York and then an unsuccessful candidate for president twice. You have people like that, and you got Kamala, who was a career prosecutor, and that's essentially all she's done outside of moving directly over into politics. They tend to be crooks. They're not good people. It's like I used to, on the bench, it's like, excuse me, can you approach both of you? Do you have any character? Do you realize what you just did? Well, I mean, no, we can't have that. That is not going to be allowed up in here. You do it again, and the court's going to see to it that you get a 10-day paid vacation courtesy
Bro, I'm
of the sheriff.
fucking lost right now.
No. See, and that's what I'm looking at.
What the fuck?
She wants to be chief administrative officer, but she's never been the boss over anything. She was nominally with the Attorney General's office, but you've got all of these egos with all of these people with doctorate of laws who've taken the bar exam, and every one of them in there could run against you in an election and be your boss, and is as qualified technically as you are to run the place. So she's never been the boss in charge of something where she dictated, because what she did in San Francisco and when she got over California is she essentially had somebody else doing it, and she was just a political figurehead. So when you come into this situation here, Putin, you know, Russia, Ukraine, those are serious things. They have a lot of nukes. You've got Xi Jinping, and China's got one hell of a huge army, Air Force, nukes, computer systems, and so on.
Navy.
What is your experience in international diplomacy? You got made the representative of the country to handle the foreign affairs. You failed so badly they yanked you out. When you were actually the boss in charge, the borders are, you just complete abject failure to that. Your only appearance down there was to sit in a chair in the desert while they interviewed you, trying to be cute, flashing your pearls, you know, and you didn't do your job. So you're talking now about you want to legitimize 20 million aliens who've come in here and see that they get fast-tracked so they can vote and become part of the whole process. What are you doing? Whose jobs are you taking away? What about the people that actually lined up to go through the rules? You know, I want to become a citizen, so I take the courses. See, nobody's checking. They've got an outbreak of hepatitis. They got an outbreak of measles. HIV is ramped up. They've got all kinds of things. They've got problems with strains of tuberculosis that have no cure. So people are, before they come down with it, you have to put them on prophylactics for the rest of their life so they don't get a fatal illness that nobody can cure. So nobody is running the medical test. Nobody is checking to see what penitentiary they got out of. And something that is pretty real is a movie. You remember Al Pacino in Scarface? They dumped all their penitentiaries and they're over here. You got all of these Latino gangs that have now infiltrated. You've got Ukraine. You've got Gaza. You've got people that hate the fact that they don't have technology to shoot down a B-1B bomber. So what do? They just walk across the damn border. Nobody's checking them.
Fuck.
Somebody is giving them free transportation without even vetting their luggage. And in the luggage, they have military-grade explosives, which over the last several years, I'm sure they put in various building structures, hospitals, subways, and everything else. And on command, they flip the switch, and 911 looks like a Boy Scout meeting. So what are you going to do about these things? Nobody's checking. You have a situation right now that has to be taken into context. Just about every major seaport is using these container removal cranes, these giant gantry cranes. They're made in the People's Republic of China. Nobody checked them, and now they went back and did, and there seem to be some things built into them that they can't remove. Don't know what the function is, but they appear to be communication devices. What the hell are those? You know? So you want to shoot down a B-1 bomber 56 miles from the southern border point where there is a huge illegal crossing. There is a U.S. Air Force base where 24 B-1 bombers stage out of. You can just surround a damn base with some RPGs and take a few of them out. We don't have but 24 of them that are operational, and some other was in long-term storage because we can't afford to operate the damn things. What are you supposed to do?
The Kamala one?
That was your job. Did you do it?
That's
Did
why I
you
was
handle
laughing.
it? No. So, they've got this thing where sometimes they promote people up. You fail at a job, but you got a rep, so they can't get rid of you.
Shit. Yeah,
So
there's a saying in the military, for some people, you fuck up and move up. And that's what he's talking about, too. Well, Harris technically fucked to move up, so kind of close.
they promote you. Like, for example, Halsey, Admiral Halsey, Bull Halsey, always charged off, was aggressive. Great in World War World War II, the first part of it. But there was a thing in the Philippines, well, not Philippines, Leyte Gulf. It was a disaster. The Japanese laid a decoy force out. He fell for the trap, took off with all of the warships, left the beaches totally unguarded, told nobody, and he should have been court-martialed. But because of his fame, they couldn't, so they wound up promoting him to 5-star admiral.
Yeah, it was
instead of court-martialing him and canceling him. So, they do this kind of thing. So it's not unusual.
Well, not all the way through.
But I'm just saying, hey, if you're going to bring somebody in, bring in somebody that knows what the hell they're doing. Meanwhile, she had a little rally in Georgia. I think 86 people showed up.
Ouch.
That was supposed to be interesting. And she had the nerve to call Vance unpatriotic, and he came back on a big time. He said, simplify to serve, loyalty. I was in the Marine Corps over in the sand pile, and Trump took a bullet. What the hell have you done?
Sand
and you want to call somebody out on the subject. See, it's hypocrisy. But you see, I did this because I did what I did, and that's what I did, which is because that's why I did it. Hey, what the hell did you just say? Do you realize what you said? Do you know?
All right. Not gonna lie, some of those parts, I'm not sure if I'm just high or hold on. But I felt like he just went off on a random story like a typical old guy would. But he still got across some of the points that I've actually been saying about Kamala Harris. And it's nice to hear, actually come from somebody else's ears. At least for me. I don't know about you guys. But that Trump was pretty fun. That's like vintage Trump right there. It's going right after the mainstream media, which he needs to do. Because the mainstream media is doing what it does and what it always does. It pushes a narrative, and then we believe it. Or we don't believe it. Who knows? But Trump saying that nobody died on January 6th. When I think about that, because he mentioned Babbitt was shot, but didn't die. And there's conspiracy out there that Ashley Babbitt didn't die and wasn't really shot either. Dude, Memphis is fucking ridiculous. I refuse to go to Memphis. My daughter wants to go over there can we go to IKEA? I'm like, well, let me see where it's at. And it said Memphis. I'm like, fuck you, we're not going. Find something else. And I think the next closest is Indiana. And if I'm going to go to Indiana, I'm going to go fucking to the casino. But, holy shit. Why am I not surprised? That's a lot of money from the government. And they're well allowed to do that. Crazy how Memphis. You think if you know you have a gang problem, you'd ramp up more police. But then we saw what happens when you put Memphis police and they beat an innocent guy to death right there on the streets. All 5 of them pretty much just destroyed him and killed him over a girl. Fucking thugs. Oh, can I say thugs because they were black? Would that make me racist? No? Well, anyway. I was going to do the J.D. Vance rally, but I don't think I will. Yeah, don't visit Memphis. Yeah. I would definitely not go to Memphis, and I really want to go to that Bass Pro Shop, but I'm not going to Memphis. So it is what it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. I know it sucks. It sucks that all that crime's there, and I really don't want to go. Oh, yeah. I've heard that quite a bit. The felons. But anyway, like I said, I'm not telling y'all how to think. I'm just telling you to think. And we watched some interesting things today, I believe, and learned a little something new. Kamala Harris, she's got a bunch of buzzwords and regurgitation, so she doesn't have to really change her speeches up because it's going to be the same thing over and over and over again. So, anyway, y'all have a good day, good afternoon, good night, whatever you want to call it. Bat Mom, no one likes you. Well, everyone in here does. As far as everyone else, yeah, they don't like you. Now go make me a sandwich. Yeti, you have a good day. I'll see you later, hopefully. Now I'm going to go see what's going on with the live catch or Jeff. Dominique, there you are. We all like Dominique. All right. At least she admits to speaking Spanish. Wait, no, she doesn't. Fuck. Anyway, y'all have a good day. And I'm clicking on the wrong button. And I'll see you next time. Don't know what I'm going to do yet. And I normally will find out later tonight, or I'll do it tomorrow morning when I wake up. Dude, I wake up, and for like the first 3 hours of my morning, I search for content. I shit you not. I have fucking folders or playlists of stuff I put in from the previous night. Some of them play, some of them like, yeah, that's just fucking stupid. I don't know why I saved it.